We've spent the day learning about connected cars, but one of the things about connected cars, they're going to use a lot of data, but the automated car is going to use even more. Andreas Mai of Cisco, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you've found?
Absolutely. No, we have found that like the regular connected vehicle is going to produce about 1.5 gigabytes per month for over-the-air updates, remote diagnostics, the Pandora, the kind of videos that we may consume at some point in the vehicle. But if you go autonomous, you're immediately talking about 300 gigabytes per month, and that is for kind of downloading all this diagnostics data that you want to understand to see whether you can modify the algorithms for autonomous vehicles and then update those algorithms as well.
That's an amazing amount. That's more than a lot of ISP providers who are putting caps on allow their customers today. So how does that happen in the future then?
I believe that it can only happen if you have a multi-technology platform, i.e. you have the capability to connect via LTE, via Wi-Fi, via DSRC, via satellite, maybe even in some instances for autonomous vehicles. And you always need to select the best available network. Yeah? You cannot rely on just a single network technology to provide this connectivity.
You also talked about latency being a concern and a way to kind of get around that.
Yes, absolutely. If you talk about safety critical applications, you may need to think about a concept that we call fog. Yeah? You cannot pump all the data up into the cloud and then process it there and then pump it back to where it needs to be at the particular point in time. So you may need to have some compute power, some storage capacity, some applications maybe even on the edge of the network to process some low latency applications that prevent crashes.
There was a lot of talk today about other people maybe need to be involved in this conversation. Ethics. I think ethicist was one that was brought up. And one of the points you made was, the decisions that are made, that some of that data, people may consider it their own, but in a way it should be for the public good, right?
Yeah. In some instances, in some use cases, that's actually the case. Because if you have a vehicle driving next to you and you want to find out, and this vehicle broadcasts that it is fully operational, then you have a driver next to you and you need to understand how good or bad this driver is, or you have this autonomous vehicle next to you that has good or bad capabilities of driving autonomously. You have weather, you have the risk at the intersection to get involved into crashes. All this information can be put together in a pool of knowledge, and it can generate what I call risk score that tells you how risky it is at this particular point in time to drive in this particular location. If somebody like you, for instance, had the right to keep away this data that your brakes may not be operational at this point, you increase the level of risk for the people surrounding you. And then that bears the question, do you have an obligation to share this information for the broader public or societal good?
Well, it seems to me that a lot of that information becomes just kind of enhanced what we're doing now with signals, for instance, right?
Yes, absolutely. It's a very nice analogy, and I think it boils down to the question of what data do we, at the end of the day, have the right to keep private, and what data do we have an obligation to share for the greater public good.
Since you're from Cisco, I have to ask you this question. One of the things that really impressed me was this idea of what people in this industry call backhaul is really last mile for other people, right? There's going to be all this data, 300 gigabytes per car, and flowing from relatively small spots back through fiber, presumably. The question is, who's going to build those networks? Is it going to be the current private operators? Will it be municipals? Will it be combinations? What do you see?
I see this to be a combination. I think we definitely need more Wi-Fi offload capability alongside the roads, because essentially when we are sitting in a car in a traffic jam, we will be using all our devices. Yeah? If we then have autonomous vehicles driving us around, we will make more use of this capability. So we will need to stay connected. And then you need Wi-Fi offload capacity alongside the roads. But at the same time, you also need smarts in the network that decides what data points you actually need to extract from vehicles and what is just kind of noise. And this type of smart network technology, I think, is also a key to success here.
Well, that makes sense why Cisco's here then. Well, Andreas, I appreciate your time.
Thank you for your time, Ken. It was a pleasure.